Hey, It's a Wonderful Podcast patrons and friends. So it is spooky season. You know I love me some spooky season. And I put a poll up on our Patreon a few months back asking you, which horror franchise should I delve into this spooky season? I think every major horror franchise I have gaps in. Like, I haven't seen all the Texas Chainsaw movies. I haven't seen all the Child's Play movies. I haven't seen all of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I think the only franchise I've seen everything of is Friday the 13th, because I did actually do a poll of that, I think, the year before, and watched all of those movies and did reviews on each one. So I put several series on the on a poll on our Patreon, on It's a Wonderful Podcast Patreon, and you guys voted, and Nightmare on Elm Street got the most votes. So definitely looking forward to delving into that. A Nightmare on Elm Street is actually the first horror movie I watched, and it terrified me. I think I was about 8, and my sister had a friend sleeping over, and they were watching it, and I wanted to be cool and sit up and watch with them. So I sat there and I watched it, and I was freaked out. Freddy Krueger, his face reminded me of melted cheese pizza. So I couldn't eat pizza for months after that, because it just was like, ew, it tastes like Freddy's gross face. So after that, I just couldn't do it for quite a while. So it's just funny that that's the franchise that was chosen, because I had this kind of dark history with it. But over the years, I've developed a huge love for horror. So I'm really excited to delve into this series. So yeah, I've seen the first film several times now. And I've seen the remake. And I've just kind of seen bits and pieces of the rest. I haven't really sat and watched them all the way through. So I'm really excited to delve into this franchise. So I'm here to review the first film, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Really excited to talk about this film because, yes, like I said, I do have this weird history. First horror movie I ever saw freaked me the hell out. Wes Craven really sealed it with kind of his style. This was him kind of defining another decade of horror. He had, Last House on the Left in his films, and The Hills Have Eyes in his kind of horror films that he was writing and directing in the 70s. So he had his own kind of really hardcore style there. And then now he's moving into the 80s and defining that era with this iconic character. So yeah, I love that he, it makes you look at Scream and realize, yeah, he really knows how to write like cool teenagers that are likable. So he really did that with the teenagers in this movie. You see kind of their friend dynamic, and Nancy, he loves kind of having these strong women. Even in Last House on the Left, he has a really strong female character in the mother having to fight back against these guys who did these terrible things to her daughter. So yeah, he likes to have strong female characters, obviously, with people like Sidney Prescott and Gale Weathers. So we see it here with Nancy. Nancy is a badass. She's going to take charge of the situation. And she is an epic final girl who doesn't back down. What makes Freddy so terrifying is the fact that, like, he can get you in your sleep where you're most vulnerable. And like when I'm sleeping, I kind of am aware I'm dreaming, but you feel trapped when you're in a nightmare or a bad dream. Like, I like that they take that feeling and invoke it into a horror element, because that is so terrifying when you're in a scary dream and you can't get out of it and you can't wake yourself up. Like, everyone's been there. So to make that a theme of horror, or what your monster is about, is incredibly terrifying. So I really thought the concept of Freddy Krueger was just really smart. Because yeah, we know that feeling of being trapped in a dream. So just how to figure out how to get control and take that control away from him is really kind of a fun thing with our final girl trying to figure this out. Of course, the introduction of Johnny Depp in this movie, who his ass just could not stay awake. So I love that Nancy just getting pissed at him, like, damn it, Glenn, just stay awake. So obviously he gets karma kind of played back on him with one of the most epic deaths. Like, I knew about that scene before I had even seen the movie. The blood getting sucked into the bed and just the blood shooting up, and just that crazy room they built, that rotating room. Also with Tina's death at the beginning, great, her just going up the walls and out of control and getting killed in her sleep. Just really great effects work trying to figure out how to make these deaths really cool and interesting, and really play into the idea of this is happening to in your sleep and you can't do anything about it, and nobody can do anything to help you because it's in your head unless they're able to wake you up. But if you don't know what's going on, you're not going to wake that person up. So yeah, just so terrifying. And it just kind of, every time I watch it, I just remember why it scared me so bad, because obviously I couldn't sleep that night, because then I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if I go to sleep, Freddy's gonna come for me. I'm gonna hear the jump rope girls. And yeah, so I just love the concept of Freddy Krueger. Robert Englund, he injects a bit of this kind of silliness and menace. This movie, I think, is like where he's the most menacing, and then over time he does get a little bit more jokey. But I do like them seeing the menacing first kind of introduction of this character, and he kills it literally and makes such a memorable character. The makeup is great as well. And yeah, just love Nancy the Final Girl. I will say, I think the kind of Home Alone elements were a little bit hokey and silly, and kind of the realization of how to break out of Freddy's kind of hold over you by the end, like, you know, that she like doesn't believe in him anymore or something, and then he just kind of fades into dust. That felt a little bit silly. And also the ending, like, I didn't like that, you know, Freddy kind of takes over the car and it's all kind of a dream in a dream. I would have liked kind of her to defeat him after all of that and then kind of get away. And then just the terrible dummy of the mom getting sucked through the door. That looks so bad. It looks terrible. So yeah, just some iffy choices throughout, but overall creating an iconic horror villain, getting us a really epic final girl. I love that she always was fighting back. She was always taking charge, wasn't listening to her parents, wasn't putting too much stock in Glenn because he was useless, and just being a badass. And I love that Wes Craven loves to create women characters like this. So yeah, just a very great defining moment in horror. I think this movie really kind of being an iconic thing in the 80s, and I'm really excited to get into these next few films. So yeah, thank you for picking this franchise. Definitely brought me back to my first kind of tippy-toeing into the horror genre, to being terrified of this movie to now actually really being a huge horror fan. So yeah, thank you for taking me back there and kind of coming full circle with all of that. But yeah, really solid horror movie for the 80s, really interesting, unique effects that we hadn't really seen before. Great final girl, great iconic villain, great story horror concepts, and some really cool visuals as well. So yeah, really solid horror film, iconic horror film, and I'm excited to get into the rest of these franchise. So thank you guys for your votes on this franchise, and thank you for checking out this review, and I will see you back here for Freddy's Revenge.